Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. Today is exciting because we're going to be installing the T-vent window from CR Laurence in the the passenger side part of the van. We do have a window for the driver's side, but keeps getting put on back order. Hopefully this week we're going to go down to South Carolina and pick it up from the CR Laurence location there. I'm actually having to return this one because the spacing right here, the first thing you want to do when you take it out of the box is make sure that this spacing is not off, because once this is closed, if this is off, you'll never get the window to seal. And so that's the issue that I'm dealing with the first one. So hopefully that return will go well with no problems. And yeah, I'm gonna email it today, send them some pictures and all that good stuff. But we're moving into this portion. Now, what's interesting about the passenger side is if we take our trim ring and we'll bring our trim ring into the van. So this is the trim ring that comes with the kit. You'll notice, okay, when we put the trim ring up, you know, pretty standard. First thing is to know that you're going to have a door, unlocking pin. And you're going to want to make sure that you don't cut that off when you're cutting into the van to jigsaw it and do all that stuff. The other thing to watch out for is it's not a perfect representation of the layout or the profile of a Ford Transit window. It's really close. So if we just start down here on the bottom left, what I've done is I put the trim ring down here and I've cut out, or I've put a permanent marker on where the trim ring goes. And again, as I talked about the video about the ADV 1033 windows, you always got to watch this radius, because this radius is what is most important. So right here is the factory, and then you can see we're going to have to cut into this radius. Then it goes up. The factory line is pretty good, no problems. And then right here, you see it's actually going to come in, and then it's going to start here. So we're going to cut this rib out. Obviously, we'll cut this rib out. But again, it goes along the top, and wherever you see a black line, that will have to be slightly trimmed. Well, possibly. May not have to, but we'll have to see. Then we have this radius. Again, this radius on this side does come in and match this line coming down, which is good. But then right when you get down here, you see how it bumps out a little bit, and then it comes back in. So that's what we're gonna have to watch for. If we go back out here to the passenger side, what we're gonna have to do is kind of like what we did for these windows. So if you remember, what we did for these windows is we drilled 2 pilot holes out that were at the top of our layout marks, and then we used our template and adjusted it right there so that we would know how high or low we were supposed to be. And our left or right didn't really matter because we actually knew our center point. The problem over here is you don't really have any center point to reference. So what you have to do is when you make your template, or what I'm going to do is I'll drill a top mark where that line was. I'll go down, I'll drill a bottom hole where that line again was, where I cut the ribs out. Then I'll do one on the right, and then I'll do one on the left. And that way I can locate the template up and down, and then I can do it left to right. And then that'll center everything up for me. So the next biggest challenge here is to go ahead and cut out our template. We'll do the same process that we used for this, and I'll show you here in a second. We're going to use a piece of this box that it came in, and then we'll probably cut the whole face of the box out, and then we'll put the box up over here. And then we'll actually put the trim ring on it, grab the inside of the trim ring, and then when we're done, we will come and put it on top of here. We'll cut out a notch so this can go through. And then we'll go and take our razor with extremely sharp blades, so new blades, and then we'll come through and we'll just kind of go through and score this, whatever extra is on here. Because again, remember, you want your template is tight to this line, not the trim ring. The trim ring is going to be more, it's going to have more slack in it, lack of a better word. And since it has more of a gap, so for some forgiveness, you want your template to be this line right here, this edge is where you want your template to just be precise as possible. What's nice is if you're just right on this plane of this line and you cut your hole out like that, when you go in to trace your template, you can take your jigsaw and just cut out your permanent marker line. Just cut out straight on that line, so the blade is matching the marker line. And that's going to give you just perfect fit. The one challenge about that is getting it so perfect, especially on the passenger side or the driver's side when you're doing the T-vent, is you won't be able to really adjust it. It's pretty much, where it's at is where it's at. And if that's the case, we might have to do some modification, but I try to be as precise and exact as possible. And then if I can go back, I can always take out more material. You guys have heard me say that before. But really what we want to do is on this side, those windows need to be precise because where they're at is exactly where you're visually going to see it. Here you got a little bit more forgiveness because you want to be able to match the profile here. And that's really usually the whole reason why you buy that type of CRI window, is you want to be able to have that factory window looking aesthetic. So we're gonna go ahead and get that box. One of these days when we get this van out of here, we'll clean this shop up. It's been busy, so it's getting a little cluttered, but mostly that is just, these are all the pre-cut insulation panels from Adventure Wagon. And just to give you guys a quick update, we've gotten this whole entire section done. We've got this whole entire section done. As soon as we'll tape this off of painter's plastic. As soon as we get this window out, and then this window in and this window in, then we can tape both off through our vent fan, and then we can actually get started with knocking this interior out. So I'm excited for that, but let's go ahead and jump over to the window, start cutting out our template. And if you want to know how to cut out a template for a van window, we have a link to a templating process video, as well as drilling and tapping holes for the M4 by 0.70 socket head cap screw modification that we've been doing on all these windows. And just to give you a real quick look at that, this is what I'm talking about. So these are socket head cap screws right here in the window. They're not what Laurence provides. And I did that because I specifically, on how to locate this trim ring and this window, I have to take this window out a minimum of 2 times. So I needed to be able to have something where I could screw it in, get the profile, take it out, put this panel in, trace it out, and then put the window back in. So I wasn't putting in just one and done. I needed to be able to take it out and put it back in. But this also gives the customer the abilities to that. Just say, for example, you know, they were in bed laying down, or something happened, they kicked the window, it broke, or a branch came and hit the window. The way that I do this, it's very easy to unscrew, take the window out, buy a new window, pop it back in, and keep on going. So it just makes it really nice and flexible. Also, if you are wanting to get your van wrapped, you would be able to take this window out so that they can wrap it and then put it back on top of the wrap, so you're not having to cut over here and potentially having these like, you know, white paint reveal lines or whatever paint color you have. Anyway, I digress. Let's get back over here to the window. Let's go ahead and cut our template out and get started with this window install. Guys, let's bring you in here a little closer. Got all the stuff to weigh this down. The reason that this template is difficult is because the trim ring is has a curve in it. So I don't know if you guys can see that on camera, but there's a big curve because the Ford Transit curves on the sliding door. And so you saw how precise I cut out the trim ring outline. But the point I make in my other video about these windows is there's a gasket on the outside of this window, and the tighter you cut your template, the more surface area of gasket is going to be there to seal your window. Some people complain about these corners where they don't actually have, it's not a big deal. I don't see it often, but I do see some videos online where they can't get these outer corners to seal. And the reason is, if you follow the trim ring, you have so much more material that you're leaving. I mean, you're removing so much extra material from the van sheet metal. And the more material that you take away from the sheet metal that's not going to be the outer of this frame, the less surface area you have to seal water out of the van. So it's really, again, it's very rare, but you want to do the best job and ensure that you have the least possibility of any type of leaks. Take your ring, put it on your cardboard, trace it out, and then put your cardboard on the window, push it down, especially this one that is curved. Push this down, get it weighed, and then take a razor and go around and cut off this excess, okay? Look how much excess material that we took off that was not necessary from this side. So this is how much board's overlapping this side. And I traced out the tight inside of the trim ring. Same thing with this. We took this much off. So I mean, if we're adding this up, I mean that's almost a half an inch. And then this was the radius that we cut off on the top right hand side. So imagine, this is all the material you would have taken out of the Transit van, and it was not necessary because with this, the window's still gonna fit, because what we're gonna do is we will now do a marker on the outside here, and now that'll be our cut line. If we have to take trim a little bit of more room in the outside corners, that's cool. But once this material right here is cut out, you cannot replace it. It's gone forever when you cut it out. Yeah, I mean, it just amazes me that this is how much material you would be removing. Let me look at that. Especially this. So remember, this trim ring is not a template. You can kind of think of it that way. This is not a template. This trim ring is its only job. What this trim ring was designed for is to clamp the window into the door. It's not designed to be, you can use it as a reference, but you need to clean it up after you do. Because all this is just designed to clamp it in the window. It's not designed to be your template. You can start from it, but my suggestion to you, put it on here, weigh it down, get that curve, conform to that curve, take a razor, move it all the way around the outside. You're gonna be really happy with the template you have. And then that way, when we go inside and draw our top screw, bottom, left, and right for our reference points, we know that we're spot on. So we're gonna take this off, move it over to the van, and go to our next step. All right, guys, welcome back. We're inside the van. We've got our template that we just cut out. Okay, and a couple of things. The first thing I want you guys to notice, hopefully you can see it on the camera, if not, I'll explain it to you, is you know how we said we had to cut through this part of the van, and over here? If you now notice, we don't have to do that at the moment because everything looks like it's gonna be able to fit on the inside. We do have to cut out this, we do have to cut out this, we do have to cut out this bottom. But for everything else, we've got room. So we've got room side to side, and we've got room top to bottom. So we don't, at this moment, have to cut out any of this van part. And that's kind of the thing I keep kind of, you know, it's a reoccurring theme is only cut out what you have to. Take your time. Might take a little bit longer, but you can always revert back if you don't take too much material away. If you take too much material away, you're not going to have the best fitment that you could. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to cut this out, this one and this one. But before I do that, we're going to tape our template in here. And always keep your eye on this. We're going to unscrew this and take that out so we don't cut it off. What we're going to do now is we want to go ahead and get some tape on here. And we want to start centering up our template on the inside. As best as we can. because we're going to take a drill bit, we're going to drill through the template, and that will allow us to have our reference holes, our reference locating holes, or holes that we can locate where this template needs to be when it goes on the other side of the van. And just another one of my recommendations, always use masking tape. For me, painter's tape doesn't cut it. It just doesn't hold well enough. And so we're looking for a consistent distance around where we traced out our frame. So just look around, make sure everything looks even. You want to have almost maybe 3/8 of an inch all the way around. Here is what it should look like. It's nice, and it's a little high in this corner, but that's okay because I've already indicated on my template that I cut a little tight in here. It needs to be a little wider, so that's okay right there. So over here looks good. Over here looks good. You want to pull it over just a little bit. That looks good. We're good on the top. Good on the bottom. Do want to come down slightly. Probably do our 2 holes here, right underneath these notches. I think that'll be good. And then we just want to go straight through, and then when we get to the other side, now notice how this bends in. We want to have a long enough drill bit to where we can just cut through this and not push through here. So this keeps nice and flush. So we'll drill through here, and then we'll take the template and then we'll hang it on those where the screw holes are, and then we'll tape it, and then that's how we're going to translate this from one side to the other side. we've got 2 1/4 from our window. So let's just verify that. So right here is 2 1/4. So that looks good. 2 1/4. All right, so our template's good there. And then when I measured over here, this needed to be 8 3/4. 8 3/4. Alright, so if you're wondering, not all the way to this edge, probably 8 in. So 8 3/4 is the glass. So 8 3/4 is the glass. Is the template to the tip of the glass. And then 2 1/4 over here is from the window frame and the edge of the glass. So I guess it looks like we'll be possibly shifting this maybe a 1/8 of an inch to the left. But we're going to keep the template right where it's at. But you do not want to go any more further. So 2 1/4, I'd say that's your limit. So if we need to move this back, the good news is from right here to right here, we can just grind that out and then move this back. The only reason that would interfere with our install is that we don't want the glass resting here. We want the glass resting more on the inside. That's just what I'm predicting. So we're gonna go ahead, trace this out, because I'm pretty happy where it's at. If I check the bottom here, we got 1.5 inches to that lip. We got 1.5 inches to that lip, so we're good down here. And up here, that's 1 3/4 inches. We're here, we're 1 3/4 inches. So our template is perfectly, it's flush. We got even here, even on the top, even at the bottom. So let me go ahead and give you the guys a measurement again. This is 1 3/4 inches down here. And up top, inch and 3/4 inches. Is it the same? No, 1.5 inches. I don't know why I said 1 3/4 inches. 1.5 inches on the bottom. Is that right? This is 1.5 inches. 1.5 inches on the bottom, 1 3/4 inches on the top. This is the distance to the top. It's okay. That is the distance to the top. All right, we're good. So what I've done, typical OCD fashion, is I've measured from where the frame, this thing's gonna fall off. So what I've done is I measured to where the frame of the window is to where the glass should sit in this van. We're good here, we're good up there, we're good here, and we're good on this back side. Because again, my whole thing, cut as minimal amount of material out as possible to get this window in. So let's go ahead and get our marker and we'll start tracing. Tracing out our template. When we do this, we're gonna make sure we push the template to the wall. And I've left myself a gap between the tape so I can just hold it on here and start making my mark. And there's a couple places where I can't make a mark because the tape's there. And I'll just go back with a straight edge and I'll clean that up. Not forget to make 2 marks down here. Just let me know that this is where the latch is. We went ahead and made our marks over here to know that we need to go outside. I'm just gonna write a little O outside of our line. And here we have our traced out line for our passenger window in the Sport Transit. The next step is to go inside. We're going to grind off our support members. And then once we do that, we'll come back over here and we will make sure to, it's a little bit wider. And we're going to make sure to tape everything off really well. So that our jigsaw doesn't scratch with the paint, and then we'll go ahead and get our jigsaw out. We'll drill a pilot hole, and then we'll just go ahead and start. And we're going to be cutting on the line. We'll be cutting outside of the line up here, and then we'll go back to on the line all the way around. And now with this off, you can see we can triple check. We got, so what I did is I just made a little dot from the window frame, and then that way I can verify that our line is going to give enough room for our window frame, and we're great. It's very excellent work. All right, let's get to grinding on the inside. Okay, now we're going to take our grinder. We're going to go ahead and grind out this top and the right. It's going to be interesting over here because we're going to have to kind of curve our grind to just make that contour. Same thing for over here. And then the main thing that I explained with other window videos is we're just cutting through this thin piece of metal. We're not cutting through this sheet metal. So make sure when you go through, you're not going too far in, because that will not be a good mistake. All right, we got everything cut out here. We're ready to jigsaw this out. Our next step is to go on the outside, tape everything off, and when we get finished, we'll come back in here with a flat disc and we'll grind all this stuff off, and we'll prep everything for rust preventative. We'll definitely do a test fit before we do all that. But yeah, it's exciting. We're moving on to the outside. We're gonna jigsaw it. Whew. You guys definitely need all this PPE, because when you get a super fine tip blade to cut this out, the shavings are just very, like, they are so tiny. So when you're doing this, you're breathing them in. So make sure you do that. Put on your gloves. Let's see what our window looks like. I did this with the angle grinder. I don't like to do that because it introduces a lot of heat. Kind of blisters the paint, and I have to fix that. But it was the fastest way just to do this, so I didn't have to worry about affecting the unlocking thing on the inside. But yeah, let's take all this tape off. See if we got a good test fit. Feel pretty good about it. Looks pretty good to me. Something else that I did is I usually put the tape right at the line, and I'm glad I didn't, because now I can go through here and take my grinding wheel and clean everything up, scuff this, and that way I can tape it off and do my my rust preventative, which is essentially matte black Rust-Oleum. Does a really good job. But yeah, as you guys can see there, we got this cut out. And before I do the test fit, I'm gonna grind all this, just so it's not really sharp, and then we'll actually test with the window. All right, guys, we got the window in. Everything is fitting very well. You won't be able to see this in the camera, but if you look at the top left, there is, I'll take it off the tripod here in a minute. So everything is nice and flush on the inside, and I did a little video on my phone to show you guys all the edges because the GoPro battery is charging. All right, guys, we're doing a final look around here. Everything looks really good. A little wobbly, but we've had to go and make some cuts here because of the contour. Other than that, everything is really tight. So that is our window in the van. We're going to go ahead and tap our holes for our screws, and then we'll put it in. And everything's perfect. It's ready to go. The holes are ready to be tapped, drilled and tapped. Now, something I've seen from a lot of the videos online is that if you look at the installation, this side seems to be nice and flush. It gives you the thought that maybe this side over here, or I'll take this off the tripod now, that this side over here on the right is something's wrong with it, like it's messed up or something like that. But it's actually not. This is just how aggressive the curve is on a Ford Transit. And so as soon as we get this mounted, this will actually, I don't know if you can see that, this will actually suck into the van. So it looks like it's a problem. And I will agree with you, it's pretty significant. That's my finger. But it looks like that's just the way it is. But as far as everything else, looks really good. The evenness down here I'm happy with. When you open up your window, make sure you check out this lip right here. They're supposed to test this for evenness, and I have a window that was not even when I took it out of the box. Some other stuff about CRL, there's some details like that, you know, some touch-ups they did. Little glass nick with a paint touch-up from them. That's pretty much what you're gonna get these days, I'd say. All these windows I've looked at always have some little quirk. But let's go ahead and take this window off, and we will clean up all of our, where we grinded on the window frame. We'll tape it off. We'll do our rust preventative. We'll take the frame, put it on the table. We'll go ahead and tap all the holes, and then we'll install it. It's pretty straightforward. So that is the next steps here. Guys, we just finished up drilling and tapping all of our holes in here, and there's a lot. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 holes. And let's see if this thing can zoom in here. So the importance of the holes is to really be able to clamp down and get a really good seal on this window. And it's just my opinion, but I think the way that CRL does it with these pack of screws here, I don't think that's good. Just my personal opinion. If you guys can see this, you can see just this is the lip where the screw that I put in bites. So for example, it goes in right here, and then you've actually got threads, if you guys can see. There's actually threads here. Does it focus? There's actually threads on the sidewall when you tap it, and when you screw it in, you get a really strong, you can make a really strong compression. However, if you use the screws they give you, you're basically cutting through this lip right here, and depending on how good you actually drill through it, you really don't get a good feel of how good the clamping force is. So I just think drilling and tap it is better, and you even get your other security of putting Loctite on it, and that way you really don't have to worry about it. But we're ready to go ahead and put this in. Everything's cleaned out. We've used the air compressor to blow out all the aluminum filings. We've got our frame inside, our trim ring, or whatever you want to call it. And yeah, we're getting ready to put the window in right now. All right, guys, we installed our CR Laurence T-vent window. So on this window, this is the vent. So this actually does not vent, if you guys were wondering. It's just this side. From about here all the way around, it's very, very good. The window's back. there's a bracket back here that is the hinge for all this, and it's touching the van, so that's as far as back as it's gonna go. I mean, it looks really good. But if you're wondering, if you do install it, from here all the way around to here is gonna feel like a normal window. It's gonna be flush. All right, flush. And then just right here and up here, it's even with this. So, I guess that's just the way it's designed. And yeah, I need to go. I went to all those van shows, and I didn't really look at other ones up close, but yeah, that's what it looks like. All right, so we're gonna wrap this video up. We're gonna go back inside. I'm gonna unscrew one bolt at a time. I'm gonna Loctite it, and then I'm just gonna retorque down all the bolts. Once I finish with that, I'm all set to go. If you guys have any questions on how to install this T-vent window on the sliding door driver's side of a Ford Transit, let me know. Put those questions in the comments below, and I'd be happy to make it or answer those in a future video. Until then, I'll see you guys in the next video.